Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Beast of the Cenozoic 1/35th Scale Woolly Mammoth. Now, when I was a kid, dinosaurs were awesome. Nowadays, well, dinosaurs are still awesome, and anyone who says otherwise, just stay away from them. They might be a reptoid, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But when I was a kid, I was obsessed with dinosaurs, and again, I still am, but growing up, I wasn't super big on, like, extinct mammals like woolly mammoth. You know, I didn't dislike them, I still thought they were alright, but I was mostly excited for dinosaurs. That wasn't until I started college, and that's when Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal started airing. And episode 3, Cold Death, a very beautiful episode, but the way the mammoths were presented in that episode was really cool. Just these absolute units just trekking through this, like, huge blizzard going on. Later in the episode, they track down Spear and Fang to avenge their fallen elder that, they hunted for food. And then at the end of the episode, all the mammoths, they, like, gather around and they have, like, a memorial for their fallen, fallen elder. And it was just a really beautiful episode. I really liked that episode a lot. The first season of Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal was pretty life-changing for me, but I'm getting off topic here. Then later, during my college days, I checked out the Walking with Beasts series, which was pretty much walking with dinosaurs, but with Cenozoic animals. And then I took a class in evolution, and we learned more about, like, extinct animals and, like, the evolution of, like, humans and, stuff like that, which was also really cool. So suffice to say, I have grown quite, an attachment to, like, extinct animals such as woolly mammoth. Dinosaurs I've always loved, and I always will love dinosaurs, but this newfound, like, love I have for extinct mammals, like, this is more of, like, a recent development, but yeah. So, the Beast of the Mesozoic line, the Creative Beast Studios, they recently started doing, animals based on the Cenozoic era, and they just released this 1/35th scale woolly mammoth, which is great because I really want to collect more, like, Beasts of the Mesozoic figures and, like, Beasts of the Cenozoic figures too. But most of them are in the 1/18th scale, which I get because, like, modeling, like, a smaller figure, like, in the 1/35th scale, I can see how that would be, like, really hard to do. But the way I display all of my like, Jurassic Park, like, dinosaur stuff, like, it's very limited. In fact, it's just the top of my dresser. So it's really nice when they make, like, 1/35th scale, like, animals like this. Their Dilophosaurus looks really good, their Stegosaurus looks really good, all their Ceratopsians, all their figures look great, but they're all in the 1/18th scale, and for me, like, just finding room is just kind of a problem. So whenever they do the 1/35th scale figures, it is always really nice, and I'm really happy they did that with the woolly mammoth here. So yeah, I've been rambling on for far too long. Let's just get into this. Before we take a look at the figure itself, to start, I just want to take a look at this collector's card that it comes with. So for the front here, we have some very nice artwork here. I really love, like, how this looks. I love the colors, everything here. This just looks really nice, and I am a very big fan of this. Of course, at the bottom corner here, we have the Beast of the Cenozoic. On the back here, we have a picture of the figure, some facts about woolly mammoth, and some information at the bottom there, Creative Beast Studio and so on. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the card. Not a whole lot, but, like, again, the artwork here is really nice. I really like all the facts about woolly mammoth here. It's really cool. Overall, this is just a really nice card, and I like this a lot. Now, going back to the figure itself, to start, we'll take a look at the paint. And the painting on this figure, I think, looks very good. So let's take a closer look. So right off the bat, most of the parts on this figure are going to be cast in this very dark shade of brown, almost a blackish coloration, with a lot of brown, like, brighter brown, like, dry brushing throughout, which I think looks really nice here. I think it makes the detailing for the fur pop really nicely. I will say, though, this is such a minor nitpick, but the painting on the back side of the figure isn't as vibrant as the painting on the front side, which is not the end of the world whatsoever. Like, this still looks perfectly fine, but I do notice a little bit of a difference between, like, both of these sections. Just, again, not the end of the world at all, but just something I think is worth pointing out. The toenails here are going to be painted this nice brownish, whitish coloration, and I think they are painted very nicely. The tusks here, they will not be painted, but they will be casted in this whitish brownish coloration, which again, I think looks really nice. The eyes here are going to be painted white with black pupils. And the inside of the mouth here is going to be painted this nice pinkish purplish coloration, with a nice glossy finish to it. And that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. And overall, the painting here I think looks very good. Again, if I had one ever so small nitpick, again, I just wish the painting here on the backside was a little more consistent with the front half, but even then, it's barely noticeable. You can still pick up on it a little bit, but not really. So yeah, not the end of the world. So overall, the painting on this figure is great. Definitely gets a pass. Now we'll take a look at the articulation, and the articulation on this figure I think is nice. So let's take a closer look. So starting off at the trunk here, we can get some upwards movement, like so. We have 2 ball joints in the trunk as well. This joint here is a little tight, but this other joint can move easier. There is a bendy wire in here, as you can see by the holes here. The rubber they use, it's very tough. It's very hard, so it's a little tough to get proper bends, but there is a bendy wire in here, I can confirm. The mouth can open like so. They didn't need to do that, but they did, and I'm really happy they did. The ears here are going to be on ball joints, so they can rotate in very unnatural ways, but that's okay. At the head, we do have some side-to-side motion. Not a lot of up and down. There's a little bit, but this figure is mostly going to be looking left and right, which is okay. At the shoulders here, we are going to have some ball joints. We're going to have, bends here. These joints here, these can move upwards, but on mine, they are very tight. This one moves a little easier, like so, but yeah, on mine, these are very tight. Even with a hair blow dryer, it is very hard to get these to move, but I digress. Going to the feet here, they can move downwards about that much, and upwards about that much. They can also rotate a little bit, which is nice. At the torso here, we have a ball joint. I will say, on mine, this joint feels a little loose. It's still fine, but I feel like this could have been a little tighter. But I digress. At the hind limbs here, we have ball joints in the thighs here. We have bends in the knees here, but again, on mine, the joints are very tight. But the back feet here are on ball joints. And lastly, the tail is going to be on a ball joint. And that's pretty much it for the articulation on this figure. And the articulation here, I think some of the joints are a little too tight, but overall, the articulation on this figure is still very good. So the articulation here, I'd say gets a pass. So as you can see, the tusks on this figure are removable, and that is because this figure actually comes with 2 interchangeable pairs of tusks, which I think is really cool. We get one pair where the tusks are smaller, which I believe was the difference between male and female woolly mammoths. Females had smaller tusks while males had bigger tusks. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not here, but either way, I do like the variation. We also get a pair of damaged tusks, which also looks really cool. So, yeah, not a whole lot to them. Just one is smaller and the other is just damaged. But, still it is really nice to have that variation. I think it does add a lot of value to this figure, and I'm really down with that. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the alternate tusks here. Now, we'll take a look at the sculpt. And the sculpting on this figure, I think, looks very good. I think, the proportions here, I think, look very good. Nothing looks too big or too out of place or anything like that. You know, the sculpting on this figure, for the most part, is perfect. If I had one minor nitpick with the sculpt here, it's with the trunk. I think this bit sticks out a little bit too much. You know, when you like straighten it out, it looks fine. But, you know, I want to display this figure with the trunk dangling like so. And again, we just have this bit right here that just sort of sticks out a little too much. But besides that, you know, the sculpting here is still pretty much perfect. And even with this, you know, I'm still a fan of like how this figure, like this is just like such a minor nitpick. Like I am actively trying to find things I don't like about this figure, right? Because like overall, this is a very solid figure, you know, so far, you know, great paint, you know, great articulation, great sculpt. This figure is just great. Not to spoil the end of the video, but this is just a great figure. And like, at this point, I'm just trying to find something I don't like. So the sculpting on this figure is very good. So the sculpting on this figure, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the detailing. And the detailing on this figure, I think, looks very good. So let's take a closer look. So starting off with the head here, we can see all of the, you know, bits of fur here are detailed very nicely. Everything here is just very nicely defined. You know, all of the fur going down to the trunk here. And even the underside of the trunk has a lot of really nice detailing as well. Well, you know, besides the holes there. But yeah, detailing there looks really nice. You know, the ears here, the head, everything here just looks very nice. The tusks here, they're not going to be painted, so it's going to be a little harder to point out all of the bits of detailing here. But the detailing here still looks nice. You know, we do get little, like, you know, little, like, crevices and little cracks and whatnot that look really nice. You know, it's easier to see in person rather than on camera, but again, there is still a lot of really nice detailing here. Going to the body, again, just a lot of really nice, like, fur textures here. You know, everything here is just detailed very nicely. And of course, the very well done paint here also just really makes the fur detailing pop. You know, just a lot of really nice musculature on like the side of the legs here and on the feet as well. Again, just a lot of really nice like fur textures here. Everything here just looks very nice. The tail here, again, all of the, you know, detailing for all the fur here, again, looks very nice. And the underside of the feet here, you know, there's also going to be some really nice detailing here as well. Which, again, I don't think they needed to do because, like, you know, you're not going to be seeing that, but they did. And it's really cool that they did. And that's pretty much it for the detailing on this figure. And the detailing on this figure, very solid. Very, very solid. Definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll do some size comparisons. And right off the bat, I just wanted to show off the Beast of the Mesozoic 1/35th scale T-Rex. You know, this one is the Kickstarter exclusive, the one that's based off of the T-Rex from Walking with Dinosaurs. And I gotta say, these two figures look so cool next to each other. It is insane, you know. I understand why Creative Beast Studios, I understand why they want to do more of, like, you know, the 1/18th scale for their figures, because, like, it's easier to sculpt and, like, paint and everything like that. But, again, I just think this 1/35th scale is, well, not only more convenient for me, but also just, I prefer having, like, smaller scale figures, you know, like this size. I think this is pretty perfect, and I think these two figures look really well next to each other, but I digress. Here we have the Beasts of the Mesozoic Velociraptor. Here we have the Sephora Limited Triceratops. Right there. And, of course, here we have some hand sanitizer, and here we have Dr. Billy Grant. And as you can see, obviously, Dr. Billy Grant does not scale very well with the woolly mammoth here, but if I can at least say one thing, this Triceratops actually scales pretty nicely with this T-Rex here. So at the end of the day, should you get this figure? Well, before I answer that, let me ask another question. Is this figure perfect? No. The painting at points, I think, feels a little inconsistent. Some of the joints on my copy, at least, are way too tight. But overall, this is still a very well-made figure. The painting here still looks great. The articulation is still great. The sculpt, the detailing, the alternate tusk pieces, even the collector's card, I think, is great. And overall, like, everything about this figure is great. And I definitely recommend that you pick this figure up. Now, as far as price tags go, I got this figure directly from Creative Bee Studios website, and I paid about $70, which, to be fair, for some people, I could see that being a bit of a tough pill to swallow. And sure, it's not super cheap, but the price tag honestly didn't really bother me that much because, like, well, first of all, this is still a really nice figure, but also, Creative Bee Studio, they are an indie company. It's not like Bandai or Mattel, where there are these huge like companies that have a lot of resources to pump out a bunch of figures, which this isn't a jab at neither Bandai nor Mattel. I think they both put out some, or they can put out some very great quality figures. But Creative Bee Studio, it's a much smaller team, and everyone involved, they are very passionate about not just making really nice figures, also making figures that scale well with each other, and also just really passionate about making like as scientifically accurate like figures as possible, with all of, like their different dinosaur lines. Again, I don't have all their figures. I wish I had the room and honestly money for it, but like from what I've seen, like all of their ceratopsians figures, all of their other raptor figures, and all their other like Cenozoic like figures, like everything they have put out from what I've seen all looks phenomenal, right? So yeah, $70. It's not super cheap, but I also think it's important to, support smaller studios, but also like, these are just really nice figures, and this figure is no exception. So yes, I do definitely recommend that you pick this figure up. So yeah, I have been rambling on for far too long now. That is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zack out.